Welcome to the Sua Sponte podcast. I'm Ken Harper, your host, and with me today is Raymond Gonzales. Today, we wanted to talk about leadership, just the fact that it seems like society doesn't really have good bearings on leadership anymore. We don't have a whole lot of good leaders. So we're just going to kind of talk back and forth about things we think is important, things that we like about leaders, things we don't like about leaders. And we put out a couple quotes from Creighton Abrams about leadership and like the point of Ranger Battalion and how we're supposed to leave battalion and go out and be leaders. And so Creighton Abrams made it, well, he quoted that, we should leave battalion and go out to the big army, and we should lead big army units. And I think it's even bigger than that for me personally, is that in America, whatever job you do, we should still be leading and guiding people. It's going to look different because in battalion we have standards and we know essentially, what it is to be a good ranger, what it is to be a good leader in the military. So finding those standards and objective goals in the outside civilian world is key to being a leader, but also that understanding, like that's in ranger school, like in sapper school, that's what they do, in those schools, they're putting you in positions to be in charge at a moment's notice. And so I think that that's a good thing that the military, well, those schools and battalion does, is they teach you that. But in society, like when you have a job, nobody's really planning to be the boss or planning to have to train a new guy how to do the job. And so people aren't really thinking outside of just what they do. So, and I never went out to the big army, like you left battalion and went out to the big army. And so I don't know what that's like. I have friends that were in the big army. And, when I went to ranger school and sapper school, I saw some of the big army's best. And to be honest, I was a little disappointed. And I understand that in the regular army, they have to promote what they have. But I still think at the same time, like, you don't have to. Like, you can be, I don't know. I think you're better off with, quality than you are just with quantity. And I had this argument with my dad a couple months ago when we were elk hunting. But we talked about like just kind of the quantity quality method that society has, and even like the regular army has, is like, do we need to just promote people, or just, allow people to join the military that aren't meeting the standard, whatever that standard is? It's objective, it's black and white. So if they don't meet the standard, then they shouldn't be there. And so, I heard a podcast guy was talking about going to different recruiting offices, and why he ended up joining the Marines is because like they were fit and squared away. Like they looked good. They didn't look like garbage. And like, I agree with that. Like, like why would you want to join or be a part of something that looks like, just a mess? Like nobody wants to be embarrassed and be a part of something that's a joke. So, yeah.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I don't want to say nobody wants to be part of it, because some people throughout my career in life choose to go the easier way, the easier route. I remember when I went to ALC and I was with engineers from other units. And I mean, I was motivated to try to do the best on my PT test. I remember sitting there, and one of the guys was saying, like, "What's my minimum I need on this PT test?" And I was just like, "What the fuck? Like? Is that what you're shooting for? Like?" But then you're gonna complain about like all these special operations, people getting cool stuff. Like maybe you should just like do a 360 check and realize like you're shooting for the minimum standard. You're gonna get the minimum uh, benefits from your effort.
Yeah.
You know, so like uh, it's definitely if you adopted the ranger, especially the ranger standard and the mentality of being a leader, it's I feel like it's different from any other leader. I mean, there might be better leaders out there, but it's just different. It definitely is efficient. It gets the job done. Um, and I think it was so successful because there was a black and white written down standard that was agreed upon agreed upon with the soldiers with the council statement when they first get there. Like, this is what I expect from you. This is what is going to happen to you if you do not meet the expectations that I set for you. But also let them know those expectations I set for you are coming from people above me, and I'm going to enforce them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like growing up, especially in the military, there was this unwritten code is like, if you mess up, you get your butt chewed out, but don't take it personally, because like that's like getting your smack in a hand. It's better than getting smoked, or better than something else, better than getting some more negative documentation put to your name. But when I left the Ranger Regiment, I went out to the other units. I didn't see that there. It was more of like, I don't want this person to be mad at me. I don't want, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't want to hurt the person's feelings. And a lot of it was because they hung out with them on the weekends or they did other stuff. It's just like, you're hurting yourself. You hurt not just yourself, but you're hurting the military. Like, like you're getting paid to be a tool to execute a certain mission. And that should be it, especially in the military. But I feel like that's slowly being chipped away at to what it is now. I mean, I'm not in the military, but when I've seen it, it's been, especially the Army, it looks messy from the outside, if you know what I mean.
Well, there's a meeting, or I mean, there's a reason why they're not meeting their recruiting goals. I mean, it's simple, but even at that, like to your point, like when somebody chews you out because you screwed up, you have two options. You can either get better or you can get mad and be upset and vindictive and screw up even more. And so that's what a lot of people choose to do. They're like, screw this, whatever. I'm just going to be butthurt about getting chewed out. And so like I think that's a stupid route because it doesn't fix any problems for anybody. All it does is ignore the problem, and you're no better off. And so and I think battalion has that, right? We have RFS, right? You can release a soldier at any point if he's not meeting the standard, or there's other instances, where guys can RFS. And so, the big army doesn't really have that, nor do they, you know, use that authority to get rid of people. And I think that that's a problem. I see that in the civilian world, like if you're unwilling to discipline and hold people accountable, then everybody is just going to be outside the lines doing whatever they want. And so like, I don't want to have to talk, poorly about my employer. Like I enjoy where I work, but one thing that we are severely lacking is discipline. And there's a reason, and that has like effects for society all around us, because like if you have people not driving safe or not doing their job safely, like ultimately someone else is going to get hurt.
Yeah. And not only that, that's on the, I would say, subordinate level, right? The driving. And would you say there's another level up of leadership that should be checking on these people, or doing have checks and balances, or making sure they're good, or how does that usually work in your line of work?
Yeah, I mean, it's like everything. There's multiple layers upon layers of, there's always got to be watchers watching the watchers. I mean, it's just, that's how it is. Everybody's always watching. I mean, and this is not just like about my employer or, like what you're doing, but, this is government, right? Like everybody either watches CNN or Fox News. I'm sure there's one other that people watch, but regardless, like we all pick a side. We all have complaints about whoever is in office, but I'm saying like, how do we get back to an objective, black and white standard of this is a good leader or this is not a good leader?
I think, oh yeah, I think that there needs to be. So right now I'm in school, like I said before in the other podcast, and one of my classes is intercultural communication, and it's all about emotions and being nice to people and yada yada yada, and understanding other people and how to be more compassionate. But I just keep thinking to myself as I sit in this class where I do the homework, it's like, this is unnecessary. Like, just set a standard of interaction and how you need to act with certain situations. That's one thing I value about the military, because you had a manual for everything. You had an FM. You know what I mean? If you didn't know how to do it, there was somebody who 20 years ago who written out every single step of how you're supposed to execute this thing you're supposed to do. Like, if you, I mean, you may not think it, but you could find almost anything. Like, I used to search documentation when I was in the military all the time, just to see what I can find. But anyways, so I think that's an issue in the civilian world, is like, it's not the person. Like I feel like if you work for somebody, you are they are paying you for your time, and you must listen to them because they are giving you money to do whatever you need to do right now. And there's no, unless it comes to like in the military, life, limb, or eyesight. Like, unless it's going to hurt you or hurt somebody else, or like, is it really that issue? Like, your emotions are emotions. Like, if you get your butt chewed out for not doing what you're getting paid to do, that's your fault. Like, there's nobody else's fault. And if you put yourself in that situation, a negative situation where a superior has to come and like get in your butt, like not get your butt, you know what I mean? But like, that's your fault. You put yourself in that
Yeah.
situation. You could be lucky and have a nice person or somebody who's gentle and passionate and kind and come and be like, oh, okay, this is what we need to do. But they're still logging at you messed up. You're still going down on their list of efficient employees. You know what I mean? If you keep doing it, they're not always not going to be nice. You know what I mean? Because eventually it's going to reflect on them, in my opinion. But uh, I just feel that's a big issue that they tailor to the individual way too much. Because when I was in the military, I remember when I was in Seco, you didn't like say, "Oh, I have my kids, my wife, I have to go do something. I can't be at work." Like that was like never on the table. And like when I got to Eco, I heard NCO's like, "Oh, I can't make it. I have to pick my kids up." I'm like, "What the freak are you talking about? Like, I need to have kids. We can get out of work." Like, but that was, I mean, I'm trying to be funny, but you know what I mean? It just shocked me. Like, we're Rangers. Like, you can get called at any minute to be at anywhere in the world in 18 hours. Your
Yeah.
kid, you know what I mean? You have to set things in place. But that's kind of like he's like wanted to tailor to himself. But I'm just like, no, like that is not the way we do it. It's you're here, you volunteer to be here, you're getting paid to be here, you follow the rules while you're here. I don't know. I feel like they kind of tailor to a lot of people's individualities. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that goes to your point earlier is about like as leaders being friends with your subordinates. And I mean, like, people might think it's like it's stupid that I still call you Sergeant Gonzales. I'm not gonna lie, like I just struggle with that because that's like that was what I knew you for
Our
as for
relationship.
like, for so long in my life. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like we didn't party, we didn't hang out outside of work. We had a professional relationship where it was like I knew at any moment, like if I was like, hey Ray, like it was smoking time. Like it was not like uh what'd you call me?
Yeah.
So but in like society there's no like fear or reverence for like a leadership position. It's just kind of like, hey friend, and it's like, and I get like if your leader wants to be have a more like compassionate relationship, but they have to be able to discipline you and still like I think it's a loving way. Like I think if you're unwilling to try to help somebody be better, you don't really love or care them about them. Like that would be like me as a father giving one of my children just candy all the time, right?
Yeah.
And
Just
then
like
like they eat candy and they get diabetes. Like was that loving of me? Like they like it was just one of those, in the moment gratifying, like they're happy, they love me. But like that's what discipline is, right? Like it's sometimes it's saying no to people and just being like, no, like this was wrong, like you're screwed up, like you need to fix yourself. Just like I say no to my children, right? I don't give them candy every meal. I need them to eat healthy proteins and everything else.
mhm.
And I know like it makes them upset with me sometimes, but like at the end of the day, I do it because I love them. And so like I that's where I think the breakdown in society is, right? Like leaders are unwilling to say no to people. And I think that is one of the most important things is like I mean, I remember one time we had that discussion with all those new privates, right? You were like, all right, the dude that does the best on his PT test is going to Ranger School. And I remember we had like 10 dudes, and the one guy that did the best, everybody hated. And I was like, look, like, you guys don't need to be mad at him. You need to be mad at yourselves. Like, you guys are the ones that didn't score better than him. So, like, don't be mad at him because you couldn't beat him. And so, like, that that's what it is as a leader is to set a standard, to set a goal, hold people accountable, and help make them better.
Yeah. Just a quick note on that, where you say the people feel negatively about the person who succeeded above them in the PT test. Like throughout my life, like especially recently, I started like I would feel certain negative feelings towards people or situations or things, and I like when I really like why do I feel this way or whatever. But then what I really came down to is that negative emotion. Like when I feel that, that's like my body telling me something's not right. Like I am thinking about this situation in the wrong way, and it's causing me to get upset or something. Like why am I getting upset? And then I think about it, it's like, oh, because are they better than me? Did they do something I didn't want to do? I wanted to do, or like, do I feel negative because I wanted to do that? And like, who knows? Like, there's just a million different reasons that like it will come to him. Like, okay, like let's address that. Like, you want to not feel this way? Let's get rid of that deep core emotion that makes you not feel that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but that was just a little thing when I thought about when you said about those people. Like, if once like that's a telltale sign, then you do a 360 check of what's going on with you because there's something negative in you and you need to figure out what it is. And if you don't address it, it's just going to continue to get worse, in my opinion. And that also leads to a bad subordinate. And hopefully that subordinate doesn't get to a leadership position because then they're going to have that negativity with them. So, um, anyways, let me just move on. But about the leader though, one thing you said too, that I wanted to harp on is the be no do. Do you remember that?
I don't.
You don't remember be no do. When you're studying for the board, they have in the handbook or whatever, when you go into like the whatever section cover, the NCO, like one of the things, even the Ranger handbook, fuck, where's it? It says be no do. So be the best you can be, execute, you know what I mean, to the best of your ability,
Yeah.
know your subordinates, and always do like the right thing pretty much. You know,
Yeah.
like that. And I don't feel like that, or hold on, do you feel like that mentality is out there in the leaders that you've dealt with?
No, I don't think so. I mean, but I think it's a base level. Like everything you just explained, like it has an objective standard, right? Like
Yes.
being and doing the right thing, like that's all dependent on what is the right thing. And most people don't even know what the right thing to do is anymore. Nor, well, and we've had this conversation, like everybody wants to talk about a moral compass. I got a moral compass, and it's like, well, what do you ground your moral compass on? Because it's like you and me know, like in land nav, like you get a compass, that's external to you, like that's not internal to you. So like if you have an objective standard, that has to be external to you, right? Because like the problem we have as humans is like I lie to you. You don't know I lie to you, but then like I don't like when people lie to me. But it's like here I am, I'm a hypocrite, right? Because I lied to you, but I don't like when people lie to me. And so, but because I have my own internal compass where I'm like, oh, this is right, this is not right, I'm subjective to that. And so that's why, like, in the Ranger standards, like that's objective. Like it doesn't matter what your name is, it doesn't matter what company commander you're related to or general or whatever. You don't get special rules written for you. It's the same for everybody. And so I think that that's what helped in battalion. That's what we had that was unique, is that that was the standard. This is what you do. This is right and wrong. If you don't do it this way, you're gone. And, you know, that's just how it was. And so it made things easy. I honestly sometimes think more discipline, more objective standards actually makes things easier for everybody. Like, well, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
ramble too long. So did you have anything to add on that?
No, I agree with you. Like that's kind of like what I was saying about how they should treat things in the business world instead of like, oh, and understand other people's cultures and blah 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 blah. And it's just like, does that mean that, like the point is that you want for this class, like you want people to work together and be nice to each other in order to make money. That's it. If they're nice and happy and people, that's more money you can make because that means your network can get bigger and you can make more money with more people. Like that's what it comes down to. So that's your lowest common denominator. So figure out what's the easiest way. All this bull crap trying to understand people, or you can go down here and be like, this is A through Z. This is how we operate.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's way more efficient than trying to play freaking a game and try to understand somebody just because I think it's even more racist just because you think somebody looks a certain way. You do research on our culture and stuff, and like, oh, ni hao, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
think that's offensive. Like if somebody comes to me and starts talking Spanish because I think I'm a Gonzales is my last name, but like, nah, dude, like, thanks for trying. Or they freaking come in and freaking dressed in like a Mexican, like a poncho and a sombrero, like, oh, we're honored. Like, I'd get upset and probably smack it off their head. But you know what I mean? I just think it's just a waste of time and energy. And you are 100% right. An objective standard, in my book, is the best way to be successful because it's a standard for everybody to reference in black and white. No, you know what I mean? No fluff words, nothing crazy. It's just like, this is what we need to do. That's it.
Well, and that, like I talked to my buddy about that. He used to be a prison guard at that Supermax, whatever, outside of you, and now he's doing a different federal job, and he's still like in law enforcement. But we've talked about like those objective standards. Is like when he was at the Supermax, like everything was black and white. Like you couldn't play no games, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when you moved a guy from one cell to another, like there was a method and a methodology of how it was done. Like you just can't let these guys run wild, right? And so like you go like he's gone from that atmosphere to like another law enforcement atmosphere, and it's like totally different. And the reason I is there's not that objectivity.
Yeah, that's a really good example because that reminds me because you have a spectrum of leadership, right? You have a good subordinate and a good leader, and they work well together. And the leader's like, "Hey, come on, just go." And there's another spectrum where those prison guards are the leader of wrangling these prisoners around, right?
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the communication part, um, I read a book not too long ago about how prison guards interact and stuff, and like how you need to worry about how you deal with well, not soldiers, excuse me, with prisoners because they will put you in situations to get you to come back and blackmail you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's, I mean, I'm not saying that all subordinates do that, but on a spectrum, they if you give them rope, they'll fucking pull as much as they can for their own benefit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you break the rules for them, they'll keep pulling, and they'll keep trying to freak it just like a kid. And it like I cannot like you have to nip that at the butt. Like I would when I was a
Well,
leader.
I mean, and they have to. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, my buddy would tell me like they'd spit on him, they'd throw things at him. I mean, they'd throw
Yeah,
yogurt. I mean, anything they could do to try to get their goat for 30 seconds, just to because all they need to do is get them out of their rhythm and their routine, and now that's what they prey on. And so I think that like for my buddy, like he learned a lot about leadership there, and like he has a hard time with that non-objective standard. Same thing I have, like I really struggle with leaders that like you call them and you have like a very black and white problem and you even present a solution and they're like, no, like I can't do that. And it's like, can you not do that, or do you just not want to because like you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings? And so like
yeah,
that's often what it is, right? Is it's like they're unwilling to like hurt someone's feelings. And so I don't know, I feel like those are just a couple leadership things. I, I
yeah.
I think, like
Sure.
we said, you need to be objective. Like as a leader, you need to be willing to lead by example. Like you need to know how to do the person's job. You need to know other people's jobs, and and you need to be able to discipline. I think those are just some basics of good leadership.
Yeah, but with the discipline though, that goes hand in hand with the army manuals, and they talk about NCO leadership. One thing they say is being fair with rewards and punishments. So I had to remember in my head. You know what I mean? So it's like if you do good, I'm gonna give you a reward. It doesn't matter who it is in the team or whoever. Like you're gonna get a reward. But if you also mess up, I'm still. It doesn't matter how much good you did. You know what I mean? Like there is a standard. You have to
Yeah.
be fair across the board. And throughout my military career, the units who did not do that was it gradually got worse within their organic, their cell where they were, especially in the 173rd, because then there was favoritism You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then favoritism, you develops cliques. The people who don't like the people who get favored, they feel like they're not getting a special treatment like the other people, and they join a clique. And then, like, you know what I mean? It's divided. It, and yeah, I don't know, man. You definitely have to be fair and treat everybody the same. And I mean, that comes back to objective, absolute standard, black and white. I mean, the more I think about it a lot, especially in my class, the more I think about it, like how to be more efficient, that's what it comes down to. Like when you start tailoring to people, shit goes out the window.
Yeah, my buddy Stacy always like, and he was in battalion a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he says, you know, one thing they always taught was be fair, firm, and consistent. It
Yes.
doesn't matter who it is, you know, and I think that's like we're saying that's the biggest problem is like people are not they're not being fair because they're picking their buddies. They're not being firm because they can't discipline their buddy, so they can't discipline you. And so that leads to inconsistency, and that's a problem as leader. That's not only a problem as a leader, but that's a problem as the subordinates from the bottom all the way to the top. Like if nobody's consistent anywhere, it creates a chain of inconsistencies.
Yeah, that's good. I know we've been talking about leadership. I just want to harp on some different perspective from on the leadership topic. We were talking about negative and how we think we can make it better, and
Yeah.
what we think is like the best way to do it. I mean, I don't. You don't have to say the other than me, but like, who do you think from a leader throughout your career has um, portrayed these values as close as you can? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Army was big. I think we had some good guys at the time, but you know, to be honest, one person that really helped show me a leader growing up was my wrestling coach in high school. And I say that, and like, I'm not afraid to like be honest. So like, this is what happened, right? So, um, I was kind of like a mediocre wrestler in high school. Like, I could beat good guys, and then like I could also get just stuck sometimes by
Mhm.
people that weren't great, right? And so like I think my high school coach, I made him frustrated because like he saw the potential I had, but for me it was like I was just getting hammered drunk and like sleeping with my girlfriend doing inappropriate things on the weekends that I to be honest, I shouldn't even have been doing.
Mhm.
And I think it frustrated him because he felt like I could be a better wrestler. Well, the culmination of that was my junior year in high school. Like I was doing really good in wrestling that year. My first 2 years, like I was doing all right, but like I said, I just got drunk on the weekends all the time. And so my junior year, we me and my buddy, we got really wasted the night before. And then like we came in the next day. It was it was Saturday morning. We're running around the mats cutting weight because now I'm overweight because I was drinking and eating all night. So I'm like running off, like, you know, trying to get sober and cut weight at the same
Mhm.
time. So then we go to this tournament and we wrestle in this tournament all day. And I ended up winning my weight class for the tournament. But my buddy, at one point, he like fell asleep in the bleachers. And somehow our coach found out that we were out drinking all night. And like my coach, like we were really good friends with him. Like we were tight. And and I know it hurt his feelings, you know, but he had to do it. And man, we got back and we ran like I don't even know, like 60 stadiums. Like he smoked us like hard. It was bad.
Mhm.
And then he kicked us off the team. And then the athletic director found out, and they sent us to like AA treatment for like 8 or 16. I don't even remember. It was so long ago now. But
Yeah,
like they sent us to AA, and like um, it sucked. Like it was terrible. But like at the same time, like I knew he did it out of love. He did it because he cared for me, and like he wanted better for me. He wanted better for me than I even wanted for myself. And so like that was probably one of my best leaders in my life.
that's awesome. Yeah, man. He taught you how to fish, right? Kind of
Yeah.
like you can't be in red. Like you're not. You need to go fix yourself, like as a human being, right? Like get yourself healthy and mentally straight. I mean, do you think the AA helped you, or you just like, oh my god, these are horrible classes? You didn't pay
No,
attention.
I think I'm going to be honest. The AA was kind of a joke because like they were like, oh, he's just. I mean, I'm like 16 years old, right? Like we would get like $20 and go down to a liquor store and we just like find somebody going in and be like, hey man, can you buy us liquor? And they would, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I went to AA and they were like almost like justifying what I was doing. They were like, oh, you know, he's just a social drinker. Like it's okay. It's like, dude, I'm 16. Like there ain't no reason like why this is okay. Like to be honest, like I'm lucky, you know, I got out of high school unscathed without a DUI or like getting a girl pregnant. And so it's like I say all that stuff now looking back as like a 36-year-old man, like, man, I made some terrible choices and like by God's grace, I'm here where I am today. But like there was good leaders along the way. And my wrestling coach was one of them. And like I said, like you know, he was like a good leader in the army, man. Like if you screwed up, he was going to smoke you. Like he was going to make you run. And I think that helped me in the military, you know, ultimately. But at the same time, like it took me a long time to learn some of those lessons. And some of them I learned even harder ways. But the reason why I had to learn those lessons the hard way is because a lot of times people were unwilling to discipline me or hold me accountable when they should have because they felt bad for me or they thought things like, oh, well, I used to do that. So I'd be a hypocrite to hold him accountable because I did that. And I think all it does is hurt everybody when we're unwilling to say, hey, this hurt me. Like this was bad for me. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, and I know exactly. Not exactly. I definitely empathize with the people on the other end, like you said, who like him. He said, "I'm doing this. I'm going to tell you. You're going to hate me, but I know this is going to be good for you." Do you think that was his mentality?
Oh, absolutely. Like I think he did it because he wouldn't have, I honestly think if he didn't care about me, he would have just like overlooked it. Because
Mhm.
like I said, that happened so many other times in my life where people were just like, oh, it's okay, you know, like it's not that big of a deal, right? And it's like, well, how many like steps do you have to go before it's that big of a deal?
Yeah. See, I don't know, man. It's it's hard to tell people because me, when I deal with people, I automatically expect the best out of you, and like that's to expect myself. I expect myself to try the hardest, even if I don't know anything. Like try to figure it out. But when I see other people like just not performing or not or doing something like there's like that's hurting themselves, I'm going to tell them. Like I don't care if you don't like me, but somebody needs to tell you this. You know what I mean? Like I'm here, I'm in your life, we're crossing paths. I'm going to tell you what needs to be said, and man, I'm going to sleep good at night because you may hate me, but at least those words are out there and in your brain, and a seed or something one day could freaking sprout, and you can help yourself. But
Yeah,
it's I'm doing you an injustice. I'm enabling you, is what it is. If
yeah,
I'm not telling you doing something wrong, I'm enabling you. The same way, if there's an alcoholic daughter who takes her freaking kids over and drops them off at her parents' house just so she can go out and party, and the parents don't say anything, those parents are enabling her to be an alcoholic. You know what I mean?
no,
Like,
yeah, I agree,
so, like, that's my thing now. I'm going to tell you, like, if I think it's wrong, but, and I also think my view of right and wrong is very, like, narrow, like you said, like black and white, objective.
yeah,
Like I've thought about things and stuff, you know, a lot. And um, yeah, like you're right. He did the right thing for you, and look at you now. I mean, what do you think would have happened if he didn't tell you that? Do you think you would have went downhill?
I mean probably, I mean I got a lot of friends that like, you know, it went downhill for him and I feel bad for him, you know, but some of them I've reached out to, but what are you going to do now, you know, like it's one thing to try to correct somebody when they're a teenager, they're in their 20s. But man, when you're in your late 30s, when you're in your 40s, like what are you going to change? You know, like and that's kind of like one thing we talked about with this podcast is like, you know, dudes join the military out of high school and then they go in the military and then they get out and then when they get out they struggle because now they got to start over essentially, right? Like we don't really have any direct civilian relatable credentials.
Hmm.
So now you're behind. Well, imagine being like a deadbeat, you know, alcoholic all through your 20s into your 30s. And now you got to try to figure out, how do I navigate getting a job and trying to live a normal life? And that's like if you don't have a DUI or misdemeanor or felony or
Yeah,
some other issues that you probably have. And so, yeah, I could have easily went off the deep, further off the end. But I think I did have people that cared about me, and I have seen good leaders. And I think that that was ultimately good for me.
yeah. No, that's good. I definitely see testimonials of other people who sobered up and did some other stuff. You know what I mean? And got their lives back together. But I still take that with a grain of salt because I mean, a lot of people who do kind of make that change in their life are more humble and don't post it all over social media. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's it's definitely uh, a good thing that he got you squared away, man. And like you said, like a good way to measure the data of how your success, because you had a bunch of friends, right? You said that did not
Yeah.
end up well, but yeah. So you
So
got
what
any
about for you? Like, who do you got that's like a leader, like, because you had a lot more. I mean, you were in the Army for a lot longer. I mean, you had,
man? I got a couple. There's a couple dudes who like hands down that I just like. I don't want to say envy, but I was like, dude, like you're shit. Like like how do I get like Todd Brown? I'd never remember Sergeant Brown.
absolutely. Yeah. I'll never forget Sergeant Brown.
Dude, I mean, every aspect of that dude was perfect. At least that's what he portrayed. Like I never, because I was always trying to live the Ranger standard and do the right thing when nobody's looking. So I would keep an eye out for other NCOs who weren't doing that. You know, I would catch them when they think nobody's looking and they were doing that something the wrong way, and I'd be like, "That man, he's a freaking liar." And I would just think negative, like, "You're not one of us. You're pretending."
Yeah.
I mean, or one. I mean, because I was the only one who freaking knew that. But like Brown, every aspect of every which way this guy was performed, I was always impressed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And his from when I met him to where he got to his end of his career, because I still follow him on social media, like he deserved every one bit of where he's at. Like he was a great leader. Um, Rob Chacho, that dude scored away, and he first on Simpson. Like I've never. He had his unique leadership style, but he was black and white. Like you know what I mean? It was like this is standard. If you don't meet the standard, I'm gonna slam you through the windshield of a car. That's I'll do that to somebody. But uh,
But that's easy, right? Like black and white is actually easy. Like
it,
that's why I'm saying objective standards are easy, because it's like, when you're over the line and when you're not, and you got to toe the line. And so,
mhm,
but I mean, yeah, Todd Brown, he was I mean, dude, I remember seeing him when I was in airborne school, and I was like, I don't even know this dude, but he looked squared away. Like you would see everybody else, from the big army or other units, like coming in and out of airborne barracks. And I remember seeing Todd Brown, and I was like, man, that dude looks like a squared away soldier. I mean, like his uniform, like everything was squared away about him. And like
yeah,
that was when I was really like, I didn't have a pathway to Ranger Battalion. They came to airborne school and they're like, anybody want to be a Ranger? And I was like, yeah, I want to be a Ranger. And so like I seen him and I was like, man, that guy's squared away. And then I go through RIP and RASP, and then I get sent to his company, and for like a week he's having me run between eco and HHC because they're like, we don't know what to do with this guy. And so like, but I remember I'd run back every day and I'd be like, what do you want me to do now, Sergeant Brown? And he'd be like, run back to HHC. And so, but
yeah.
yeah, dude, he was a squared away dude.
And I never seen him get mad. I saw him like get stern. All right, this needs to happen. Like you messed up. He was also freaking. I'm 6'2", and he had me by like another 5-6 inches. So he was a big dude. So he's like, this needs to happen. He had a little smile on his face, but you knew, like, okay,
Yeah.
it's like I didn't want to get his bad side. Another one, dude. If I do not want to let off the list, Major Diaz. Did you work for him?
Yeah, I think he was our company commander with First Sergeant or Rob Chacho.
Yes, beast. Same thing, same boat. I mean, he had his stuff squared away. He had a lot of pressure on him, and he did not crack under pressure. Like I was there for meetings. I was there for when bad things happened, when logistics fell through, when a whole freaking truckload of ammo didn't get shipped to freaking training event. It got left in like he held his composure. Man, it's just like with me, I would have freaking killed somebody. Not killed him, I would have lost it. But it just, I just got to put those four at least on my top of my list. We got to take a quick break. We're back now. Sorry about that. We were talking about leadership, and then we led to some leaders that we thought were just met that standard that we both hold so highly. Um, so we're gonna be wrapping it up in a few minutes. Um, we're gonna get some closing remarks from Ken and myself on leadership, and then wrap it up. All right, Ken, you got anything that add to the end of this?
No, I mean those are just the main things I think about leadership. But I do think like if people want to add a comment, I think it's helpful.
Oh,
I think
definitely.
I think it's helpful for people to just think about this stuff.
Comment below.
Yeah, just on, if you want to give a shout out to somebody in your leadership chain from when you're in battalion, or what it was about somebody that you liked. I think it's important just to think about. I think we're all, men, we're grown, like things we need to get better at. I think if we talk about them, we're going to get better. And so, you can't really get better if you don't know how to get better, or if someone's not teaching you or telling you. So I think it would be helpful for one another to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Definitely.
even, reach out to a leader that you knew, like I reached out to Sergeant Gonzales a couple months ago. I was like, I appreciate everything you did for me when I was in battalion. And so I think it's good for leaders to hear that you appreciate things they did, what they did for you. And because sometimes, like they perceived it differently, like they might think I was too hard on that guy. I shouldn't have done that. And it might actually been like a linchpin in their life where it helped them. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point, man. Well, like Ken said, if there are any leaders that you want to give a shout out to or recognize, go ahead and put it in the comments. Um, if any of the people or leaders that we're talking about, if you know them, you can tag their social media in the comments as well. Um, but I think we hit some good points on the leadership aspect. Um, I do have one last remark from my experience from being a good leader. Like, there's a lot of good leaders, right? And I think to be that, there's a lot of things that you have to sacrifice about yourself. Like you said, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be stern no matter what. Like I'm gonna be mean, but this person not gonna like me, or yada yada yada, or always pushing yourself to be the best all the time. And some leaders think that they need a stimulant to help them maintain their energy, or you know what I mean, like, or you burn yourself up, and they feel negative about themselves because they're not performing the same way they were performing years ago. And I feel like if somebody gets to that position, you just got to do a 360 check on yourself and figure out how's your nutrition. Are you resting enough? Are you doing what you need to do to get yourself recovered? Because your brain, it's just like your muscles. Like, it's not how hard you work it out; it's the recovery time when you develop it. So if you're just like, from my own experiences, man, I try to keep a high level of intensity and whatnot. And I reached out and I was taking prescribed medications or whatever, and it hindered me. So and I thought I was a bad leader. I thought I was a bad person. When in reality, like I said, it was the input I was putting in my body. So that's just one thing. If you feel negative about yourself, you always got to go back to that. Start fresh and start with what you're putting inside yourself, because it can help you or it could definitely hinder you.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys want to comment below. If you need help, or if you want to talk through some of these things or whatever, we'll link the number and give us a call, leave a message, whatever. And thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Rangers lead the way.